The Petronas Towers illuminate the Kuala Lumpur skyline as the call to prayer echoes from surrounding mosques. It's 7 p.m. and Malaysia's capital prepares to live its double nocturnal life. On one side, trendy bars, where the gilded youth sips mocktails. On the other, neighborhoods where rules are more flexible. Welcome to Malaysia, a nation caught between Islamic tradition and modern aspirations, where love and sexuality exist within contradictions. Tonight, we explore Malaysian intimacy, its taboos, hidden realities, and silent transformations. Malaysia is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious federation. About 60% of the population is Malay and Muslim. 23% are Chinese, mostly Buddhist or Christian. 7% are Indian, primarily Hindu. This diversity creates a complex social mosaic where each community lives according to its own cultural and religious norms. Romantic relationships, marriage, sexuality, everything is filtered through these ethnic and religious identities that rarely overlap. Let's start with the Muslim-Malay majority, as they define the dominant legal and moral framework. Malaysia practices a moderate Islam compared to the Middle East, but Islamic law, Sharia, applies to Muslims for family, marriage, and morality matters. These laws coexist with the civil legal system, creating unique legal dualism. A Malaysian Muslim lives under different rules than a Chinese or Indian non-Muslim in the same country. For Muslim Malays, romantic relationships before marriage are officially forbidden. The concept of khalwat, illicit proximity between unmarried man and woman, is criminalized. Religious police, Jabatan Agama Islam, conduct raids in hotels, homes, even parks to catch couples in violation. Being found alone with someone of the opposite sex without family connection can lead to fines, prosecution, and public humiliation. These laws create a climate of fear and surveillance, yet young Malays fall in love. Human nature doesn't easily submit to prohibitions. Malay couples develop elaborate strategies to see each other privately. They meet in crowded shopping malls where anonymity offers protection. They rent hotel rooms pretending to be married, sometimes buying fake wedding rings. Some travel to neighboring Singapore or Thailand for a few days of freedom. This clandestinity forces relationships into shadows, creating stress and guilt. Dating apps exist in Malaysia, but their use is complicated for Muslim Malays. Tinder, Bumble, and local apps like Muzz, formerly Muzmatch, for Muslims are downloaded. But profiles are often discreet, without face photos or with blurred images. People fear being recognized, compromising their reputation or their families. Conversations begin cautiously, assessing whether the other is serious about marriage or just seeking forbidden pleasure. Because marriage remains the only acceptable path for intimate relationships. Malaysian families, particularly Muslim ones, put enormous pressure for marriage. Young women face incessant questions from age 25. When will you marry? Why are you still single? Your parents must worry. Men have slightly more time, but pressure comes eventually. Prolonged singlehood is suspect, abnormal, almost scandalous. Arranged marriages still exist, particularly in more traditional families. Parents, aunts, uncles play matchmakers, suggesting appropriate suitors. These arrangements aren't generally forced in the strict sense. Young people can refuse, but repeated refusal creates family tensions. Some eventually yield to pressure, marrying someone they barely know. Others resist, delaying marriage for years despite reproaches. Muslim marriage in Malaysia requires wali approval, usually the bride's father. Without his consent, marriage cannot legally occur. This rule gives fathers considerable power. A father can refuse a suitor for ethnic, economic, or simply personal reasons. Stories circulate of couples forced to separate because the father refuses, even if both sincerely love each other. Interfaith marriages are particularly complicated. A Muslim cannot legally marry a non-Muslim in Malaysia unless the non-Muslim converts to Islam. This conversion isn't administrative formality. It involves religious instruction, public declarations, and adopting a Muslim name. For some, it's acceptable. For others, it's an unbearable loss of identity. Many interfaith love stories end tragically, lovers forced to choose between their love and their faith. Chinese and Indian non-Muslim communities live under different rules. They're not subject to Sharia. Chinese couples can live together before marriage without legal consequences. Indian Hindu couples follow their own traditions. This disparity creates a multi-speed society where freedoms depend on your ethnic and religious origin. This fundamental inequality generates resentment and communal tensions. Kuala Lumpur's nightlife reflects these divisions. The city has a bar and club scene, but primarily frequented by non-Muslims, Chinese, Indians, Western expats. Areas like Changkat, Bukit Bintang, and Trek are packed on weekends. Alcohol flows, music pulses, people dance. But look carefully, the clientele is predominantly non-Malay. Muslim Malays are largely absent, as drinking alcohol is haram, forbidden. Some young Malays still frequent these places, discreetly. They drink, dance, flirt like anyone else, but they live in constant fear of being recognized or photographed. Social media can ruin reputations. A photo in a bar can end up on Facebook, seen by parents. Employers, neighbors. Social consequences are devastating. Some lose jobs, others are disowned by families. Sexuality before marriage is officially taboo for all. But reality is nuanced. Urban, educated youth, particularly non-Muslims, have sexual relationships before marriage. It's discreet, never discussed openly, but it happens. Access to contraception helps. Condoms are sold in pharmacies. Birth control pills require prescription but are available. However, a young woman buying condoms may receive disapproving looks. Shame persists. Let's address an extremely sensitive topic: abortion. Abortion in Malaysia is legal only to save the mother's life or preserve her physical or mental health. In practice, access is very restricted. Doctors are cautious, fearing prosecution. Public hospitals rarely perform abortions except medical emergencies. Private clinics exist but are expensive and discreet. Poor women often have no legal and safe option. Illegal abortions therefore occur. Clandestine clinics operate. Medications are purchased online. These methods are dangerous. Women suffer complications, sometimes fatal. But stigmatization is so intense, they prefer risking their lives rather than seeking official medical help. An out-of-wedlock pregnancy is an unbearable family and social scandal, particularly for Muslim women. Abandoned babies are a tragic problem in Malaysia. Each year, dozens of newborns are found abandoned, sometimes dead. These cases reflect the desperation of pregnant young women, unable to access abortion, terrified by dishonor. Charitable organizations have created baby hatches, boxes where mothers can anonymously leave their babies. It's a desperate solution to a deep social problem. Marriage in Malaysia is an elaborate and expensive affair. Malay Muslim weddings include several ceremonies: ikad nikah, religious marriage contract; bersanding, enthronement ceremony; receptions for hundreds of guests. Families often bankrupt themselves for these celebrations. The concept of social face, the importance of appearance, pushes excessive spending. Young couples start their life together in debt. Polygamy is legal for Muslims in Malaysia. A man can marry up to 4 wives with Sharia court permission. In practice, this permission supposedly requires the first wife's consent and proof the man can fairly provide for all wives. But these conditions are sometimes circumvented. Women discover their husbands secretly married a second wife. The trauma is immense. Polygamy remains controversial, celebrated by some as a religious right, denounced by others as unfair to women. Divorce exists, but is complicated. For Muslims, divorce follows Sharia procedures. Talaq, where the man pronounces divorce, is relatively simple. Kuluk, where the woman requests divorce, often requires the husband's consent or acceptable reasons according to court. This asymmetry gives men more power. Women remain trapped in unhappy marriages because husbands refuse to divorce. Legal battles drag for years. Domestic violence is a serious and underreported problem. Cultural attitudes discourage women from complaining. It's family business. You must be patient. Think of the children. These phrases are repeated endlessly. Police can be uncooperative, treating domestic violence cases as private disputes. Shelters for battered women exist but are insufficient. Many women stay in dangerous situations without viable alternatives. Now let's address prostitution, a taboo but real subject. Prostitution is illegal in Malaysia, but it exists widely. Women stand on certain streets. Escort services advertise online. Gentlemen's clubs offer sexual services disguised. Police are often corrupt, accepting bribes to ignore these activities. Malaysian prostitution has several faces. At the top, luxury escorts serve the elite. These women are educated, beautiful, speak multiple languages. They accompany wealthy men to events, travel internationally, are paid thousands of dollars. Some see it as lucrative work, others as a stepping stone to a wealthy marriage. They operate through exclusive agencies, taking substantial commission. In the middle, there's ordinary prostitution, women working via websites, meeting clients in apartments or hotels. Many are single mothers, students, provincial women who came to Kuala Lumpur seeking fortune and found only survival. Prostitution pays better than most jobs accessible to women without higher education. It's a rational economic decision, though risky and stigmatized. At the bottom, there's street prostitution, and that controlled by organized crime. Drug-addicted women, undocumented immigrants, trafficking victims. They're in the most dangerous situations, exploited by violent pimps, risking disease, violence, arrest. These women are the most vulnerable in Malaysian society, almost invisible to the state. Human trafficking is a major problem. Malaysia is a country of origin, transit, and destination for trafficking. Malaysian women and women from ex-Soviet republics are trafficked to Europe. Middle East, Asia. Women from Central Asia and elsewhere are trafficked to Malaysia. They're promised jobs, then their passports are confiscated and they're forced into prostitution. Criminal networks operating this trafficking are powerful and violent. The explicit sugar daddy, sugar baby culture exists in Malaysia. Websites like Seeking Arrangement have numerous Malaysian users. The concept is simple. Wealthy men, often married and older, financially support young women in exchange for company and intimacy. It's not formally prostitution, as there's no fixed rate per encounter. It's presented as mutually beneficial arrangement. Women receive money, gifts, travel, men receive attention, affection, sex. This normalization of transactional relationships reflects post-colonial Malaysian society values. Money has become the measure of everything. Intimate relationships aren't exempt from this commodification. Many young Malaysian women pragmatically view these arrangements as economic opportunities. Why work in an office for meager salary when you can have comfortable life via arrangement? Do authentic romantic relationships still exist in Malaysia? Of course. Millions of couples sincerely love each other, build families, support each other mutually. But even these relationships are influenced by economic pressures and cultural norms. A Malaysian man who cannot provide for his family feels emasculated. A Malaysian woman who doesn't maintain her appearance feels inadequate. These pressures are real and constant. LGBTQ communities in Malaysia live in fear. Homosexuality itself has been criminalized since colonial times, punishable by imprisonment and caning. Laws are rarely enforced against private consensual acts, but their existence creates terror climate. Being openly gay in Malaysia can lead to firing, family rejection, violence. LGBTQ people hide their identity, sometimes marry heterosexually to maintain appearances. Torn lives. LGBTQ spaces exist clandestinely. Occasional bars and events in discreet locations. Online communities where people share experiences and find support. But risk is constant. Police raids occur. In 2018, a transgender woman deputy tourism minister was arrested for dressing as a woman in public space. The incident revealed extreme vulnerability of trans people. Malaysian LGBTQ activists fight courageously for rights and visibility. They organize discreetly, advocate for decriminalization, offer community resources. This activism is dangerous. Activists are harassed, threatened, sometimes arrested. Yet they persist, knowing change will only come through resistance and gradual visibility. Transgender people, or mak naya as they're called locally, face particularly intense stigmatization. Many survive through sex work or entertainment, marginalized sectors. Access to gender-affirming medical care is nearly impossible. Surgeries are forbidden for Muslims by religious decision. Some travel to Thailand for procedures. Others live in bodies that don't match their identity, suffering immensely. Conservative Islam has gained ground in Malaysia in recent decades. Islamic political parties are more influential. Moral laws are enforced more strictly. Muslim women face growing pressure to wear tudung, headscarf. Events deemed immoral, like Western music concerts, face protests and cancellations. This conservatization progressively suffocates freedom spaces. However, voices resist. Artists, writers, activists push for a more tolerant and pluralistic Malaysia. Young people question inherited norms. Social media, despite censorship, offer discussion and dissent platforms. Change is slow and contested, but it exists. A younger generation more connected to the world, more educated, more questioning, represents hope for gradual transformation. Technology also transforms relationships. Online dating, encrypted communications allow relationships that would have been impossible before. VPNs allow accessing censored information. Young Malaysians learn about sexuality. Rights, different ways of living despite official restrictions. This knowledge creates aspirations for more freedom. Economically, Malaysia is an upper middle income country with developed nation aspirations. This economic ambition tensions with social conservatism. Multinational companies, foreign investors expect certain openness. Educated professionals want personal freedoms similar to Singapore or the West. These economic pressures could eventually force social reforms. Malaysia must also manage its diversity. Ethnic and religious tensions simmer beneath the surface. The system of preferences for Muslim Malays, Bumi Putera, creates resentment among Chinese and Indians. Legal inequalities in marriage and morality divide. For Malaysia to thrive, it must find how to honor its diversity rather than impose religious and cultural uniformity. Compared to neighbors, Malaysia occupies intermediate position. More conservative than Thailand or Singapore, but more liberal than conservative Indonesia or Brunei. This median position creates contradictions, modern enough to have skyscrapers and technology, traditional enough to criminalize consensual intimacy. These contradictions define the contemporary Malaysian experience. The future of love and relationships in Malaysia will depend on ongoing political and cultural battles. Religious conservatives will seek to tighten control. Progressives will push for more freedoms. Young people will live their lives as they can, navigating between official prohibitions and personal desires. The outcome of this tension remains uncertain. But history suggests human desires for love, connection, personal expression are powerful and ultimately difficult to suppress totally. If you found this exploration enlightening, subscribe for more documentaries on complex social realities. Share your thoughts respectfully in comments. How do you see the balance between tradition and modernity? What lessons can be drawn from Malaysian experience? These conversations, conducted with empathy and understanding, enrich our worldview. Behind laws and traditions, millions of Malaysians simply seek to live, love, and find their place in a transforming society.